Hello everyone, this is Marshall from Scree Custom Keyboards, and I have for presentation today a very interesting board that's been through a couple changes and has brought me back to an old design technique that I had nearly forgotten about. So, this board, I'm going to do a sound test. It has Kailh Royal Box Purples, I believe is the term. They're very stiff, tactile. I think they're a tactile switch. I'd have to double check. They're quite noisy. And stiff, which is my cup of tea. Oh, I'm interacting with OBS, which is probably a bad thing. Again, my microphone is off to the right. Here is my MX G502 Lightspeed. Or not MX, what is this? Logitech. The microphone, I believe, is functioning at a 4 decibel increase. I'm hoping this is good enough. If not, I'll have to increase the decibel in DaVinci, and I'll make sure to make a note in the video as to how loud it's been. Overall, I'm not a fan of these switches. They're just too stiff for my poor little hands. But I thought it would be a good idea to show off how they sound. This is a resin dactyl with a transparent hollow body. There's no sound deadening or polyfiber fill in this board. So what you're hearing is the culmination of the cavity and the switches themselves. I do have a FDM printed base. I don't do resin printed bases. They're just incredibly expensive when it comes to the whole resin production process. The other thing of note are the keycaps. So these are a transparent mica colored keycap, DES keycaps, that I've done this in the past, but always had the problem of the resin, or the way resin 3D printing works is it stacks layers. So this mica powder is naturally blue, but when it's at the right angle, so the highest angle of light reflection, you will get a goldish, it's like a white goldish reflection. So that's great. But as you can see with these, they're all not necessarily. Some of them are. Like this one has the reflection still back there. Most of them are going to be that way now that I think about it. These have it on their backside. But what that did is that led me to do these. So I simply changed the support angle, and I've got some support problems on the inside, so I need to tune that top layer. But I also think I want to tint these slightly so that they're not so transparent. But as you can see, at the right angle, they just erupt into color. And sadly, the camera tends to blow out the color flash. But in person, it's got a little bit more green to it. They're really a spectacular color change. But this is just one color. I have a gargantuan amount of colors. The other thing I want to show is the case. So this case didn't have the mica put in with the clear. Instead, I airbrushed it. I had missed that the individual wanted the case transparent blue. To be fair, my system, for whatever reason, didn't log it, or it wasn't logged that way. But my solution was to paint it, and then I realized I needed the keycaps. So this is sort of where we ended up. All the caps I'm showing you are in matte, so they don't have any clear coat on them. But I wanted to do a little experiment. So we've got two keycaps. These are both the same, other than this one has the homing dots and this one doesn't. And that way I could distinguish them. So they're both R3 DES, just one's a homing. And I have the registration mark in there. Oh no, I turned it off for these. That's right. I turned off the registration mark. So one of the problems with my original DES is, I guess you won't be able to see. I'm not going to get the light. Yeah, right up there. Right up towards the top, the north face of that keycap, I have the registration mark. So it says R1. That's fantastic. Except for, you can slightly see the ghosting. And even more so when you turn on the RGB effects. So like on this key, I think on the camera, I can sort of see the R coming through in these. So I'm going to move those, but the other thing I wanted to do is I have heard that you can use mineral oil, and I've been doing it for a little bit on resin parts to make them look clear while not actually clear coating them. And the problem with clear coating is even if you're just using a rattle can, it takes time. It's a lot of effort in that sense. You're dealing with harsher chemicals, you gotta do it outside, so when the weather is terrible, you can't really do that. So, my hope is that with the mineral oil, I can strike a reasonably healthy balance. And I'm sorry for the background noise. I apparently didn't have all this prepped. And so we're doing it live, because I haven't really figured out how to video edit. Even though I sort of am, DaVinci Resolve really throws me for loops. So, again, this is the keycap. And then I'm just going to, wow, the oil coat sure increases transparency. What I don't have is a way to get it on the inside. Maybe if we just put a little in the cap, and then we'll have to decant it back into the cap, or into the bottle. But we're doing this live. Oh my. So it does seem like my original thoughts that it might dampen the reflection, the flash, is, I mean, it's kind of true, but it actually adds depth to it. Wow, this looks fantastic. So I'm giving it a slight wipe down so that they're not oily. The nice thing about mineral oil is it's inert to your fingers, and I'm thinking I might just swap to like Johnson & Johnson baby oil, because it should, I think they have a scentless version, and it should still give me the same effect, because if I remember correct, Johnson & Johnson is pretty much mineral oil. I don't know how well this will show on camera. Where's the other one? Here. Ooh, hold on. My fingers are going to contaminate it. Oh no. Ooh. That's what I don't want to do. Do I got alcohol? Well, it's wiping off my fingers. Okay. Back to this. So this one doesn't have the homing dots, and it is the, can we focus, please? There we go. Beautiful. Right. Let's keep that focus. So we'll just set this one in the center of my hand. Let's see. Yeah, there we can get the shine. So I guess it doesn't show it so much on camera, but it has increased the transparency considerably. Let's see if we can get that on the side of my hand. In person, I think it looks even more clear. I'm surprised the camera doesn't show these details. I mean, you would think photons are photons. but let's go a little closer. There, you can sort of see that. Yeah, this one being the matte untreated, and this one being the treated. So then if we turn it to the face, you can still see, oh, don't focus on the stuff behind me, please. Yeah. So you can see the layer lines actually a little more even. But like the flash has, I think it's slightly dampened, but it has more depth to it, and in person you can sort of see the depth to it. So I think I'm going to offer this as an alternative finish. I don't really want to lacquer finish keycaps on the inside and on the outside, because then I'm going to risk gumming up the MX stem, which I already have challenges making sure that it fits snugly. The problem with resin is it is not as pliable as like ABS or PBT plastics. So I can get it snug, but then it can crack, or I can get it loose and then it doesn't stay on the stem. So there is a happy medium, which I think I found for the most part. I don't like how these, like, so they're, oh, that just turned on the RGB. Hold on, we'll turn that on. So I don't like how these, they're a little looser in this position than they are in this position. And the reason that is oddly enough, I'm wondering if you can see it in the stem. Oop. No, we're not going to focus. Come on. Come on. There we go. So one part of the cross is actually thicker or wider than the other. So when you rotate it one way, you can get it tighter. But I think I've got a relatively happy medium. But my concern is if I were to airbrush lacquer on these, I would end up, I can't like selectively cover this very easy. I guess I could put painter's tape over them and maybe make a bunch of circles somehow. But labor goes up, cost goes up. So I think I like I might do a hybrid approach where I will lacquer coat the tops and then I will mineral oil them. The idea being that the mineral oil on the inside will give it the transparency that I'm looking for, as will the lacquer coating on the outside. Either way, what will be coming hopefully shortly is I have a whole bunch of unique color changing pigments from KP Pigments. I don't know if I should be giving away where I order my stuff, but I don't think anyone's here trying to steal the way I do this. And I will be making videos and posting of it. To that end, I had mentioned that this was an old design idea. So this, here, we will move these to the side. This is a board type that I would like to call sea glass. And this is just traditionally airbrushed. It's airbrushed on the inside and the outside. And the green, I think this is seafoam green, I believe. It really, to me, feels very reminiscent of the color. It has a very slight texture to it of actual sea glass. And then this was me demoing, well, hold on. This board should power up and go to, oh, it does. Ooh, hold on. Oh, this one has shifted slightly. Now, why am I getting an RGB issue? Well, either way, if I turn off the lights, yes, it will show you some demo work I was doing on the RuneLite keycaps. This is one method of doing the RuneLite keycaps. I don't understand why my RGB's all messed up. There. Oh, it just needed to reset the RGB state. Weird. Anywho. So, yeah. So this was sea glass, and then these are all a variety of mica powders that I have. Now, I have greatly improved the method that I will produce these for my RuneLite keycaps. But if I can mix these mica powders in with the case material, and then change the angle that I print things, i.e. get the flash where I want it, I think that might be a compelling product people would be interested in. So if you have any color ideas or requests, feel free to toss me a message, be it email or on Discord, and I would be glad to play around with it. I'm thinking maybe some of the demo ones that I make, I might keep some of them, but the problem with resin 3D printing is I'm using the screen time, so why not print a whole sheet? So maybe I will get an XDA or DSA or LDSA, the lower profile DSA cat. Those probably would be best because they're a little less resin, and produce sets where I'm experimenting with the different pigment powders I have and maybe pigment densities. I also want to try mixing them not just with straight clear, but with white and black, and maybe clear that I color tint with my CMYK coloring that I then add the pigments to. Not sure why that can turn on RGB. That I think no, I don't know. Anywho, so sorry for the overly rambling video. It's 1:10 in the morning here, and I need to get these packed. Everything seems to be working fantastic, and I think the new owner will be super happy with them. But it gave me an opportunity to give a sound test. I think that's what I'm going to do from here on. I have a couple other boards that I'm thinking of doing. So I've got this with Robin chalk keycaps. So I can give you a Kailh Robin sound demo. And I think I have a couple other switches coming up. I have Boba U4 T's this time. I think I haven't done the T's, but right now that the Boba U4s seem to be the very loved switch of people. So I'm not getting the huge variety for the sound demos like I had hoped. A couple of months ago, I had gone through a huge variety of switches, and I'm sort of stuck not having them. Let's see. Oh, and in other news, I am maybe looking for a courageous individual, or maybe I need to finally break down and buy a Kinesis 360, whether it be the wired or wireless version, because I have these Chinese knockoff, what were these called? They're, I can't think of the name of them off the top of my head. Anywho, they're a slip solder-in hot plug. So it's kind of like a hot swap socket, but you have two of them. These were actually priced quite well, even for being gold-plated. And the idea is I can use potentially a pin vise, or ideally, if I get the perfect desoldering, these should just slip into the hole for the switch once I desolder them, and then I can make a hot swap, semi-functional, should be fully functional, but there's a few things that I have to figure out. Hot swappable Kinesis 360 board, and that would be wired or wireless synonymous. The process will be a little more difficult because, again, I gotta fit all of these on, and then you have to solder them in. And the soldering on these is a little more complicated. You really want to slot them in, make sure that they're pressed in, and then you got to solder from the back because you really don't want to solder from the front and risk getting solder into the hole, because you, like, deplugging these or unplugging these would be very difficult. I haven't liked Milmax. These are a Chinese knockoff of a Milmax sockets. That's the word I'm looking for. I don't particularly like that these raise the height, because these do sit, excuse me, proud of the PCB by whatever that thickness is. Let me tell you, actually. It's quite thin, by 0.25 probably, 0.3 millimeters. No, 0.2. Yeah, 0.2. So it does raise the switches potentially, and the Kinesis is very much designed having the switches being hard mounted to the PCBs so that everything sort of stays together. They do have mounting clips, so the PCBs are sort of properly clipped in. And I have noticed if you desolder a board, you can actually fully desolder the switches. It's just not as robust as I would like. So my thought is I might be able to glue them in, or potentially 3D print something, which is what I had considered in the past. I just need a 3D scanner of some kind of substructure that cradles the PCB in position, even if it's just a couple of points. Maybe with a neoprene padding in between so that the PCBs have a little squish, so there's a little bit of flex. Maybe I'd use a rubberized glue. I'm not entirely sure. But if someone wanted to brew brave and wanted a Kinesis 360 hot swapped instead of having me exchange your switches, I would be happy to try it. And if I get some free time and I don't have someone interested, I'm going to probably buy a board and do it myself. That way I have one. The other thing is talking to a previous customer. He came up with a fantastic idea after seeing these keycaps, is that I should try and 3D scan a Kinesis shell and produce a resin printed transparent Kinesis body. And I'm not entirely sure on the legality of that, because like Kinesis, I believe, owns the design, so I would have to modify it meaningfully, I believe. But it might be something I do even if it's just a one-off personal one, because they can't stop me for personal use, at least. And then I'll have one of the coolest Kinesis boards in the world. Anywho, I think I'm done rambling. I appreciate all the support from everyone. I have stocked up as much as I can to try and weather the craziness that this economy is, and I will hopefully be able to continue to provide boards with very minimal price increases. If you have a project that you have in mind, while currently I am behind, I have this and now 4 or 5 other boards I have to get done. They've been pushed behind because of the crazy weather. It was 70 degrees today, and it's going to be below freezing tomorrow, because of course global warming is accelerating with all the craziness, and that's caused a lot of problems with the resin production and stuff. But I'm doing the best I can. I hope that's reasonably acceptable for people. I really don't mean to be behind. I'm starting to pause taking orders just so that I can catch up, because what I don't want to do is hurt people like I've seen happen in the past with this community. You guys are amazing guys and gals, and I appreciate all the support. I'll probably say it a million times, but thank you very much. This is Marshall. I'm signing off. You have a wonderful rest of your day. Toodaloo.